Yeah, so Ian, we're going to put up on the screen now a little snippet, a little photo of sort of an iconic image from back in the day at Hearts. We've got a picture up on the screen now with "I'll paint this place maroon." Can you give us a little background on that? Because I think that's become sort of one of the images that is synonymous with Hearts.
Yeah, so I think it was the era where Mad Vlad is the owner, and I think that it was about 3 months without a wage. So I think it was one day where I just decided, right, enough's enough. I wasn't going to go into training, so I was speaking to one of my mates who owned his own company, paint and decorating company, and decided that I would, instead of going to training, I'd go and give him a hand. So it was only one shift, half a shift, and yeah, the place got home with it, and everybody like that. So then it got built up, and I think we were playing Hibs just after it in the derby game, and me and the kit man had spoken and decided that we'd put this message on my vest that I wear underneath my strip, and so it went for there, and then I think during the game, I think I was arguing with one of the players, Gene Hamill, I think we got a penalty, and I was like, right, I need to take this penalty because I've got my t-shirt on. So right enough, took the penalty, and I went and missed as well. But I think 5 minutes later, I think I sent a cross into a corner. I think it was a winning goal, so, and I think that was when I was right next to the Hibs fans and revealed the t-shirt, and I was forever a hated man.
I bet you love that, mate.
Oh, honestly, one of the best days of my life.
Just touching upon that, mate. I know, like, we've been out a few times in and around sort of bars, restaurants, clubs, that sort of thing. And with the current sort of topic of like trolling and social media and that sort of banter that you would get, I seem to think that you was kind of sort of at the start of that type of thing, because I remember walking through a club to toilets and having a look around as me and you walked to the toilet and seeing people saying that's Ian Black and saying sort of all sorts of profanities at that stage. What was that, mate? Was that easy to cope with? I mean, a lot of people are getting that on social media now, and I can't imagine that you miss out on that sort of thing. But was that tough to deal with at that time? I mean, for someone like you seem to take in your stride, but can you imagine it being difficult for other people?
Yeah, no, I could see where people get affected by it, and that's why, people go to dark places and stuff like that. But I think, then, like you said, Glenn, it never really fazed me. I sort of used to just laugh and shrug it off. But you can see where some players get really affected by it, and I always agree now that if you're playing the game, you shouldn't really have much social media.
Yeah.
Or you shouldn't post stuff on it or stuff like that. But people can be really brutal and horrible, but you're never going to stop people's opinions on how you live your life or how you perform. You've always got a perception that they look at you and they'll judge you. So I was quite fortunate enough that sometimes even on the park I would thrive off it. The abuse that you would get. I used to thrive off that on the pitch, but out in public it's a bit soul destroying to hear people commenting and abusing players. But I seem to just, like you said, take it on my stride.
Yeah, I seem to get the impression it worked the opposite with you in terms of the game, that you was getting gypping and getting sort of abused. I kind of think it kind of sent you the other way, either more of an angry style, or maybe even sort of to stick one up them. But yeah, I mean, you can see how sort of people tend to dwell on it, and it can get in your head. It's a real buzzy thing at the minute, isn't it? It's kind of like the thing to discuss and talk about, and I don't really see where it's going to end. Can you see any way of it sort of changing, or just think it's going to be sort of the way football is, and it's got to be accepted because it's type the banter?
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be accepted, because you can't come to the point, because football's quite a controlling life as it is. You've got a certain lifestyle you need to live to achieve to be one of the best. So and that's a lot of, like sacrifices. So you can take it to the extreme of then controlling the players, as in like what social media they have and what they're allowed to post, because when they go to speak to the press as it is, they're spoken to before they actually do the interview, and they're told what they can say, what they can't say, what they can talk about. So I think it's just a case of just teaching the players just how to deal with it, accept it and get on with it, rather than letting it affect them.
Do you think the clubs have got some responsibility to at least media train people, maybe, as in players when doing interviews and things like that as well? Because a lot of these 16, 17, 18-year-olds, they burst onto the scene. Before you know it, they've got a camera shoved in their face, they've got a mic, and they're kind of asking loads of questions. So from a club's point of view, do you think that they've got the responsibility to also help people coming through to be able to manage that?
Yeah, I'd say so, but I think down almost to the English PFA, I think the English clubs are quite good at that, especially compared to Scotland. Like the English PFA look after you second to none, whereas the Scottish PFA, I don't even know if they have one really. That's how bad they are.
Oh wow!
But so I think looking back, like you sort of got a little bit of help on stuff like that down south. So I don't know what it's like now. I presume they probably will teach kids, but again, it's when what age do you start? Because you might have a young player who's exceptionally gifted and just gets spotted in one game for him to be thrown in the deep end. So it's one of these ones where it's hard to teach them at what age do you start.
Yeah.
I think from an agent's perspective, it's a lot of the responsibility actually falls upon your shoulders, and as you're the guiding light for the player and what perception you want of him in the public eye, and protecting a young person in the big bad world of football, just the world in general. So a lot of the guidance, like for us, we're on our players straight away about what they should be posting, what they're portraying out there on their social channels, how they conduct themselves, because you want to build these players up to be someone other players can look up to, because they're in the minority where they're at professional clubs and living dreams of many other players, but then they're still kids, so it's difficult. It is really difficult. But clubs, agents, families, I think it's got to be a joint effort from everyone. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Again, because the players sometimes need somebody to lean on at a young age, where they're looking for that, the older experienced people to sort of help them along with just advice on what's right, what's wrong, like you said there, and be taught and what to say to certain people, and just being put in like tough situations where they're going to be thrown into the deep end and ask questions that they've never been asked before. Stuff like that, just teaching them and showing them how it's done.
Yeah, I mean, just on the Hearts thing there, Ian. We did touch upon it before, but are you aware that there is still "I'll paint this place maroon" shirts being sold?
No, and it's funny because I think I gave my top that actual T-shirt to Hearts charity, and they raised some money. But then I think if I'd paid the phrase, the saying, I would have made a fortune, because back then they sold every merchandise, from mugs to T-shirts to flags to everything for the Scottish Cup final. So they made an absolute fortune, and I never got 1 pence.
Wow. Just talking about shirts, Ian, it seemed that everywhere you went, the number 8 used to follow you. Was that something that you used to go into a club and demand, or was it just, by choice that the number 8 come about? Because, people have superstitions about what numbers they wear, and you kind of see that quite a lot these days. But for you, how did the number 8 come about, and what was the story behind it?
It was just, I think, just a number that I liked. I seemed to be every club I seemed to have went to, apart from obviously mid-terms, like when I went to Shrewsbury mid-season and Blackpool mid-season, it sort of changed. But it was just a number that always fell free every time I signed to a club. And I was like, well, I'll take that number if it was available.
It's crazy how that works with the shirt numbers, because where you're talking about, like the 8 was normally available, or you kind of fell into it, and it's just a number you liked. You've got players like, who remembers the Inter Milan teams back in the day where you had Zamorano
9+1.
Yeah, 8+1, didn't he?
Yeah.
18, because he'd want the number 9, but the number 9 was taken. So, well, how do I get to?
Also, at West Ham, we had John Moncur, and his squad number was 10. And then when we signed Paolo Frutre, he come over and he demanded the number 10. So John Moncur said, "No, you're not getting that shirt." He said, "What about if I let you have my villa in Portugal for 2 weeks for the next 2 years?" So John Moncur then become number 16, and Paolo Frutre took the number 10.
He actually didn't want to play for the club, innit? If he didn't get the shirt number.
Yeah, he refused to play if he didn't have the number.
I was under Harry Redknapp or something, I believe.
Yeah.
So, Ian, towards the end of Hearts, I mean, Hearts is your club, but towards the end of Hearts, what was going on there? And at the cup final, was you aware that you was going to be leaving at that stage? Is that what was happening at that stage? Because you ended up signing for Rangers, but it seems to be a bit of a different route, because Rangers were at the time in the Division 3. What was kind of the thought process there, mate?
I sort of knew about 4 weeks before the cup final that it was all happening, because Hearts were going through this turmoil. With Mad Vlad, that financially they weren't able to extend contracts or offer a lot of the senior players that were in that squad that time. So I knew I was moving on, and I was just getting contract offers of a number of clubs, and eventually it came down to me signing for Rangers.
Was it? Is that why there was so much expression at the end when you was lifting the trophy? Because you kind of knew that was like you've achieved it in your final sort of spate with your boyhood club.
Yeah, obviously to go and play your final game at the National Stadium against your biggest rivals. I think it was the first time they met a final in 101 years. So,
wow.
It was a history game to be made. So, going into that and knowing it was my last game, and it was such a big occasion that it was, for me, it was everything to go out and win that game, to finish on a high and to represent the club that I supported and grew up for the last time. Just everything about the occasion and that time, I just want to enjoy it and go and win it.
And for those who don't know, you beat your arch rivals 5-1 in that final, which, I mean, even in photos, sort of years superseding that, there's the 5-1 hand sign that floats about. That must have been so satisfying, mate.
It was like, honestly, I was before the game, I was quite nervous, because obviously it's a cup final, you don't know what to expect. You're playing against your derby team. But no, to cut, I think after the game, I think it took about 2 days to settle in, that we actually achieved what we did, in the style we did, and the way, like 5-1. You never have dreamed of that. You'd have took 1-0 at the start of the game.
Yeah.
No, to go and achieve that, was surreal, and it was an experience that will probably never be topped.
Yeah. Was that just? Was it just so unacceptable at Hearts at that time that forced you to leave, in regards to sort of the ownership and the money and that side of things? Was it just like you couldn't continue at that stage?
No, I'd love to have stayed, but again, there was just no opportunity.
Yeah.
Because financially, the following year they went with all the kids, so you could see how much strain the club is under. And being a Hearts fan, I didn't want to. You don't want to ruin your club.
No.
So you move on and try and help them and let them try and build back up.